We've talked before about the low regard the president-elect has for the press. Now we're getting a sense of what that might mean in practice. And it looks like one of journalism's best-known rituals might be a casualty. Adam Royle has more.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you.
The daily White House press briefing has been a staple of political coverage for decades. Reporters get to challenge the administration directly.
Can you categorically deny that the United States will take over the oil fields when we win this war?
And the administration gets to push back.
We need to help you with your facts about what happened in 2011.
But now the future of that journalistic tradition is unclear. This week, incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus told radio host Hugh Hewitt that big changes are coming.
You know, even looking at things like the daily White House briefing from the press secretary, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that things can be done, and I can assure you we're looking at that.
It's not really clear what Priebus meant by that, which might be why some journalists are bracing for the worst.
I was at the White House yesterday when this news came out. There's a lot of concern.
And with Trump, anything seems possible. You can imagine the president-elect doing his own back and forth with the press on Twitter. Asked about Priebus's comments by CNN Money, Trump spokeswoman Hope Hicks urged the media not to assume the worst, saying, "How do you know these are not positive changes that will delight the press?" But given the history between Trump and the Fourth Estate, that scenario seems far-fetched.
On the other hand, you were White House correspondent for CNN. You sat in those assigned seats. I mean, it's a lot of blather. I mean, and the White House press corps gets into these back and forths with the press secretary. He doesn't even know half the time. He's just defending the president. He doesn't know the details, and they're fighting with him. And I say, in some respects, good riddance to it.
Yeah, does news come out of a daily briefing? Typically, no. I mean, sometimes when you do get into that back and forth, there's some interesting things. You can get their back up against the wall, and they might react in a certain way. So there's some surprises that you can get. But, if you're in television, you need sound bites, and that's practically the only time of the day that you have where there's an official from the White House standing there. You can use them in your pieces. So from a practical standpoint, it's important to have those daily briefings. Now, when they sort of start teasing, the president-elect's folks are teasing that maybe it's good. Well, maybe I'm starting to buy into it. Maybe you'll be able to go into the Oval Office and sit down and have the weekly chat. That's how it used to be. I mean, back in the day, you could go into where the president was hanging out, and you could have a conversation. And now those times are limited. So maybe based on how we've seen things unfold with Donald Trump, that he will be more open. Now,
part of the problem
you may not get anything, but
with the White House press room is, again, back in the day where there were just a few key news organizations and broadcast organizations, you had a limited pool of people. Now everybody wants a seat at that table, and it's hard to filter and manage, and it's become a bit of a feeding frenzy to manage. I would also say, though, that Donald Trump, I believe, won this election by going over the head of the national media and communicating directly with the people. I would not be surprised if he tries to govern that way. He would not be the first. I worked in the White House in the first Bush administration. I worked for Vice President Quayle. And one thing that Vice President Quayle did, now this was before Twitter and social media and all this stuff, he believed that the national media did not give him a fair shake. And so as a result, he curtailed their access, but he increased access to local media. So what he did was he would travel around the country, give interviews to the Burlington Free Press or the local CBS affiliate, because he thought they would report the news and not be critical. So there are different ways to do things, and politicians always try to manipulate the press for their own benefit.
The televised daily briefings only go back to the Clinton administration, and Mike McCurry, who was the press secretary at the time, has said he actually regrets putting those on TV. I think that however the relationship between the Trump administration and the press works out over the next 4 years, I don't think that official access is going to be a big part of it.
No.
I think that the media need to go hard at the Trump administration and do real reporting and not worry about these official access things. They don't really count for that much.
So I guess what I was going to say is that if they were going to retrofit what they already have, for me, as just a consumer of it, I'd like to see a little bit of mix-up of who are the regular people who always get to ask the first questions. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So to your point, I would take make it a smaller number of folks, and maybe it rotates a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, not every 2 weeks, but with some, everybody has a length of time to be up front or whatever. To me, that might be more interesting, given that there's a breadth and a breadth of more media outlets now.
Breitbart front seat.
It wouldn't be my choice.
Robert Gibbs tried to
but
do
I'm
that.
sure I'm sure that would happen. It wouldn't be my choice. But my point, the larger point, is that there should be a rotation. I think.
I have no problem with that.